Well, we have all the candidates here. We're going to go ahead and get started again. If you could take your seats. The office of mayor in Pasadena is a citywide elected position. The current mayor was elected to the position in 1999. The person elected to office this coming March 10th will be the second person to hold this office. We're going to go down the line so you know who's speaking here. The candidates campaigning for mayor of Pasadena are Jason Harden, Don Morgan, Jackie Robinson, Alan Shea, Bill Thompson, and Terry Tornick. I want to thank all of you for being here today to do this. Same as the last one, you have 3 minutes to share something about yourself, why you're running for office, and why you're here today. We'll start right here with Mr. Harden.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate the coalition for hosting this event. And basically, to tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Jason Harden. I'm publisher of the Dena magazine, a local publication that kind of shows the true culture of Pasadena and showing that Pasadena is more than just Rose Parades and Rose Bowl games. I use that publication to promote local businesses, artists, and a lot of talents that we want to share with the world, as well as just show the world who we really are. In addition to that, I've graduated from Pasadena High School. I've been a resident off and on since my freshman year of high school. And Pasadena's just been an amazing place for me. I've done a lot of things in life. I've actually come from the bottom to do what I do now, and I believe that I owe all of that to the city of Pasadena and the people in it. I've never loved the place as much as I do Pasadena because it has allowed me to find the confidence to do the things that I do now. And with that confidence, I've been able to help a lot of folks do a lot of things that they wish they could do. Recently, I was selected by the Pasadena Educational Foundation to be principal for a day. So I kind of see the needs and the value of our public educational system. I also help bring an early literacy program to Madison Elementary, of which I now volunteer for. So there's a lot of things that I do just to see this city be a better place for everyone. And I think that after today, you can kind of see where I'm coming from and what I like to do for this city. Thank you.
Don Morgan.
Well, thank you for coming on a Sunday, a beautiful Sunday. You're right. Margaret just talked about the representation of the Latino community in Pasadena, and I would say our experience in this race so far has been that the Latino community actually has felt very underrepresented in the conversation, and that 34% of our population deserves a much larger voice. And frankly, I don't know that we've heard that yet, so I'm thrilled to be here with you all talking about that. You know, clearly the Latino Coalition is a model for bringing a lot of our very important nonprofit organizations together and to build relationships with our government and with our organizations so that we can collectively address some significant challenges and opportunities for the community. Now, we also know there's some cultural constraints around involvement with government. I lived in Mexico in college and spent a year in Spain after graduate school, and I understand some suspicion around the alcalde and some other things, long, cultural traditions. And what that says to me is the ways in which we connect with the Latino community in Pasadena must look different, and we know that. And the mayor has to have some experience doing that, I think. So my entire life working on the nonprofit side has been in communities heavily engaged with the Latino community. Most recently, I was working at the Magnolia Community Initiative in Pico Union, where we heavily worked with the promotoras to engage a lot of documented and undocumented people living in that area. I've spent 12 years in Watts with a nonprofit we started that very much has experienced a lot of what Pasadena has with a very growing Latino population and a shrinking African American population, and how the relationships work with that dynamic. So I ran for mayor and am running for mayor because I think we need to address jobs and education and housing, and those are three key things that are intertwined. You can't separate them, and I think they're key issues for us strengthening the opportunity for the Latino population here in Pasadena, as well as our entire community. It's what I've been doing for 20 years, so I wear two hats. I've been working with nonprofits to create partnerships across other nonprofits and government and to raise money for them. But I've also been teaching at USC in the public policy school, teaching graduate students how to do that, and part of that work has allowed me to work very closely with cities like Pasadena and other cities on important projects where we can analyze what cities are doing, provide recommendations for them, and help them with implementation. So this semester alone, I'm working with the city of Pasadena on the Job Center because we know the Job Center is an underutilized resource both for potential people to get jobs, as well as employers to access some amazing skilled labor here in town, people eager to do a lot of great work. So that's a type of work I've been doing. It looks different than the city council experience, but it's very much, I think, relevant to what we want the mayor to do going forward. So we're looking forward to answering your questions today. Thank you.
Jackie Robinson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the Latino Coalition as well for this opportunity this afternoon. My name is Jackie Robinson. I've been a member of the City Council for the last 8 years. I've spent the last 2 years as Vice Mayor, and I'm running for Mayor because I believe that it's time that everyone in Pasadena can see themselves and their values reflected in the policies coming out of City Hall. I'm also running for Mayor because I want Pasadena to be the most progressive and the most innovative and creative city of the 21st century. I had to give up my seat to run for the City Council, and I was okay with that because I have made a difference as council member for District 1. A little bit about my background. I'm a native-born Pasadenan. I am a graduate of the public education system here in Pasadena and went on to UC Berkeley. Both my grandmother and my mother were born in Belize, and I believe that, and I'm very cognizant as I carry out the policies and discussions that we have at the City Council level, that my life could very well have been different had they stayed there, and I believe that I've been afforded a lot of opportunity as a result of being here in the Pasadena area. All of Pasadena has touched my lives growing up. I was a junior docent at the Gamble House. I was a member of the Pasadena Conservatory of Music, and I just feel like with both my personal and my professional experience in serving on the City Council for 8 years, all of that has come to fruition and makes me a mayor that will be able to work across all sectors of Pasadena. Some of the issues that I plan to tackle as mayor include what I call the underservicing of Pasadena, which is an across-the-board analysis and implementation of solutions that affect our everyday lives north of the 210 freeway, as well as our ongoing challenges in Pasadena, like affordable housing, to ensure that families like myself have the opportunity to stay in Pasadena. And so I humbly ask all of you for your vote today, and I hope that you will consider me with your vote for mayor. Thank you.
Alan Shea.
Thank you. Just giving you a quick overview of my background because it's so lengthy it may put you asleep, so I don't want you to fall asleep on me. I'm a product of Pasadena from K through 12th grade. Went to Madison Elementary, graduated from John Muir, went to PCC, graduated from USC, opened up a consulting firm on Lake and Cordova right out of college, went to law school, got my broker's license, and have a business consulting firm over on Lake and Cordova. The reason for my desire to be mayor of Pasadena is because I am truly passionate about this city. I'm the 8th of 12 children from a single parent household, moved here in '63 from Jackson, Mississippi. And upon landing here in Pasadena, my whole life changed. At the peak of the civil rights movement, as many of the older generation can appreciate, that was a revelation that my mom came into existence with to move us here. And as a result of it, we learned to be community. We learned to grow up with every ethnicity, Hispanics, Asians, Black, and they were like my brothers and sisters. I didn't see any kind of discrimination when I grew up as it related to my neighbors, my community. Those are the kind of values that I want to carry out as mayor, is that we must live harmonious in this community, and we must understand how to do that, especially as we become a more diverse community. I believe that my record and my experience will certainly show that I have the qualifications for mayor, being in business for 35 years. I've also been the chair of the Lincoln Steering Committee that brought a lot of the development up at Lincoln back in the late 90s, and that was my first adventure in the political process here at Pasadena. But as of recently, I am a commissioner here in Pasadena for the Northwest. And as many of you know who live in the Northwest, that in itself is a real commitment with the violence, with the crime, with the affordable housing, trying to evolve that. We were just committed to developing the first low housing project called Heritage Square. In almost 20 years, it took that long just to get an affordable housing in the Northwest area. But we as commissioners worked hard to do that, to make sure this community have affordable housing. Not only did we do that, but as a chair, vice chair of PCC Oversight Committee, we were able to finish the $60 million Arts Center on time, under budget for this community. Those are the kind of involvement I've had recently, but more than anything, I've put many kids through college with my programs and my entrepreneurship, which you'll see. Thank you.
Bill Thompson.
Alan, I'm as an elected trustee at Pasadena City College, I'm very grateful to you for the work that you did with Measure P money and all that, and the Arts Center. It's a delightful, beautiful building, and I'm glad you carried out the instructions I gave to you. So, my wife Carol and I and our family have lived here in Pasadena for about the last 40+ years, and moved here from Cleveland, Ohio in first part of August. It didn't rain literally until after Thanksgiving, and we said this has got to be heaven, so let's stay. And we've been here ever since. And we've been intimately involved in the community throughout the time we were here, starting as president, co-president really of the Allendale PTA some years ago, involved in the court-ordered desegregation, the trans-town busing program, et cetera, that went with that. And we're very much involved with our schools and trying to make sure that our public schools remain the top schools that they are and ought to be for all of our children. Currently, in addition to serving on the PCC Board of Trustees, I have the honor and the pleasure of being the president of the Pasadena Educational Foundation Board, which is the oldest such foundation in the state of California, 43 years plus, and over that time we've contributed slightly in excess of $140 million to our public schools, and so we've done a great job, and I'm thrilled to be a part of that. Part of the reason I decided to run for the PCC board after having served 16 years on the City Council, representing District 7, and 2 of those years as the mayor of Pasadena, was because I believe that education truly is the issue of our time. As a nation, we've got to get our act together. At PCC, for example, and it's not unique to us, it's across the country, roughly 65% of incoming students need help with basic skills, reading, writing, adding, and subtracting, etc. And we've got to address that and do a better job of it, and we are doing exactly that with some programs we've implemented with PUSD and some concerns and some ideas I have for leading things so we move on. So my day job, I'm a full-fledged attorney. Intellectual property is my practice, in litigation primarily, but over the years I've represented a number of Caltech companies and others. So innovation is really a part of my life and my background, and that's something I really want to do, is to get involved more deeply with Innovate Pasadena and organizations like that to keep our young companies, our startups staying in Pasadena if we can, or at least in this general area of the San Gabriel Valley, because that produces jobs. Jobs is a key part of our future and our success, combined with education, because if we don't have young people coming out of high school, our dropout rate has decreased significantly over the years, but still it's roughly 17–18%, so we have a long way to go. We need to make sure that every child has a chance to graduate, get a good education, and then be able to go on to college or get a job. So thank you very much.
Terry Tornick.
Thank you. Again, thanks to the coalition, and thank you for all of you for sharing part of your Sunday with us. I am not a native Pasadenan. My wife and I were born in Brooklyn, New York, before it was a fashionable place. And we came out here, and my family moved out here in 1982 when I took the job as planning director for the city. And my major activity at that time was really twofold. One was the revitalization of Old Pasadena, right next door here. And the other was working in Northwest Pasadena with Pasadena Neighborhood Housing Services, which was an organization that provided affordable housing, first-time homebuyer programming, a variety of renovation activities in Northwest Pasadena. So, and I remained on that board after I left the city in 1985. I remained on that board for nearly 20 years. So affordable housing has been one of my passions. I'm now the treasurer of a group, a nonprofit group called Link Housing, which has built 7,500 affordable units around the state of California. I have spent the last 16 months walking the entire city. Some of you I've seen at your doorstep, so you know that that's true. And I've done that because I wanted to find out from all kinds of different people what they thought was important about Pasadena and what their priorities are. And it's been a very enlightening experience. I will tell you that most people are very proud to be associated with Pasadena. They love Pasadena, like some of the candidates have expressed, and they're proud to be living here, but they understand that we can do better. And some of them, depending on what their specific circumstances are and where they live, feel less connected to City Hall than others do, less recognized by the city government than probably they should. My background is as an urban planner. I was trained, I have a graduate degree in urban planning. I've served on as well as planning director, I've served on the Planning Commission and the Design Commission. I have been a real estate person. That's how I earn my living and pay my bills. I do commercial real estate, owning and managing office buildings. And I have, I think, the requisite skills, both in terms of my education, my service, both as a volunteer and as a city official, to really make a difference for all of Pasadena. I think the issues that face the city face all of us. And that's what I hope will emerge during the course of our discussion during this afternoon. So thank you very much for coming today.
These are your mayoral candidates. March 10th, of course, the election. We've got 9 questions for each of you to respond to. And as you've already seen, we do have a timekeeper here who is keeping track. She is very, very much paying attention to all of that. So we want to start with, what's that? It's going to be 90 seconds, I believe. 90 seconds for each of the 9 questions. Since you already have the mic over there, Mr. Tornek, we're going to start with you. The first question, and it'll be the same question for each of you as we just pass the mic down. The first question is, what challenges do you see in balancing your work, home life, and civic duties if you are elected full-time mayor?
Well, I have my own company, and I've only got one building left. I've been selling the buildings off, and that's in escrow. So I intend to be able to spend virtually full-time working at mayor. My children are grown. My son and his wife are here. So all I have to, in terms of family responsibilities, is keeping my bride happy and spoiling my grandchildren. So I expect that I'll be spending full-time working as mayor.
Well, I've done this before. I'm the only candidate here who has actually served as mayor, and at the same time I had a full-time law practice, which I still have today. In fact, I have a case scheduled to go to trial in federal court in Los Angeles in a couple months' time, so I'll work with that. But if I'm elected, I guarantee you I will have the time and make the time available to deal with the challenges we have to do. That's the way I've lived my life. That's the way I will continue to do exactly that. And so I think that that's an interesting question. I think we benefit from having a day job, quite frankly, and learning from things that we experience in that realm, in that capacity. And so I'm not going to give up my law practice. I may have to shift it, and probably will have to shift it somewhat to a different type of practice, probably give up a little bit in the litigation side of things, maybe go more to being an arbitrator and a mediator, which I do now already anyway. But I assure you that my wife is 150% supportive of my efforts. She would be here today, but she's got her own job and having an open house, etc. So we will make it do. And I will survive the challenges of balancing things as I always have, and I will carry on and lead the city just as I have in the past. So.
Well, I can certainly assure you, as a result of growing up with 12 brothers and sisters, I can balance out being the mayor. My business affords me a very flexible schedule. As I said, I have my own consulting firm on Lake and Cordova, which is really close to the City Hall. In my current practice as a real estate broker, I have open schedule based on what I desire to fill it with. And my commitment as mayor would certainly be to introduce the new initiatives that I have in my plan for the city, and I'm the only candidate here who has a plan for the city, which includes really jobs, getting affordable housing, getting things off the ground that I've learned over the last 4 years as a Northwest Commission to see how imperative it is to bring forth what I've learned up there to the City Hall and make sure that it's carried out. So I believe my time will be available for mayor to the utmost, and because I have no children and I am not married, I have plenty of time to make sure that all my devotion goes to Pasadena. Thank you.
So the mayor is a full-time commitment, and as running for mayor as a candidate and hopefully the next mayor, I plan to make it a full-time commitment as well. I do want to agree with Mr. Thompson that I do believe it's an asset to be out in the quote-unquote real world as mayor. I believe that gives both council members and the mayor an opportunity to be connected to the people, to be balancing a lot of the real life responsibilities that frankly a large majority of Pasadenans have. We're in a new Pasadena right now. Not everyone is retired. A lot of families and individuals are balancing, you know, real-time personal commitments, real-time professional commitments, and that is what I will be doing as mayor.
So I'm compelled, this is I think our 6th forum, is it? I have to say, because the comment's been made a few times, you know, I've spent exactly as much time as the citywide elected mayor for the city of Pasadena as anyone else up on this table, right? So the job is different today than it used to be. I have to start with that because the comment is frequently made about past experience. You know, I've spent a lot of time with Bill Bogart and Claire Bogart about this issue. We've talked a lot. In fact, before my wife agreed to this race, we spent a lot of time with Claire, and my wife just fired questions at her the whole time about raising a family while her husband was mayor. And so we come into this with our eyes wide open on exactly what the time constraints are. I too work, as I mentioned, I wear 2 hats. You know, as you can imagine, the public policy school at USC loves the idea of having a mayor of Pasadena on staff, and it turns out the dean is my research partner, so I have quite a bit of flexibility around my teaching schedule and the nonprofit master's degree program that I run for them remotely. But I also, again, as a nonprofit consultant, am able to manage my own schedule and the own projects that I take on. I think it's important to maintain relationships with the nonprofits and the philanthropists with whom I work as a consultant, because those are resources we can be bringing to Pasadena on a daily basis. And finally, I am a parent of 4 children, and people frequently ask me how in the world I can consider this. And I would turn that around simply and say, I'm running for mayor because I'm raising 4 children in this community, and I think it's an important way for us to give back. So I will continue to engage the community and manage my time effectively.
Well, for me, as publisher of the Dina magazine, I already spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week representing Pasadena. And in that representation, I do promote heavily the things we have going on, our culture, our programs, our schools. And though running for mayor is a new experience, I believe representing the city is not. I think it's an easy transition. I'm finding that it's easier than I thought. And I do plan to just dedicate all my time in doing just what I've been doing, and that's representing the city of Pasadena, representing our schools, representing our programs and organizations and all the positive things we see, or better yet, all the positive things we don't see in media. And I think it's going to be an easy transition. I know it's a challenge, but I love a challenge. I've been through challenges all my life, and I'm very proud to take on this challenge, and I hope that you'll vote for me just because of that. Thank you.
All right, the next question, we'll start with you, Mr. Harden, on this one. Again, these are the questions that have been submitted by the community. Up until 1999, the role of the mayor was based on rotation. This was in part based on seniority and tenure. Up to that point, it was clear that the office was an honorary position. It could be argued that a full-time mayor holds a different position. What role should the mayor play in city versus the role of city council member? What should the mayor do as opposed to a city council member?
Well, that's a great question. I think the mayor's job is to represent the people. The city council members represent their districts, and I think they do a great job at that. But the mayor has to represent everyone. I'm talking about in regards to that tale of two cities thing, we have to be one city, and the mayor has to know both sides of that city. We have to be fluent in what's going on in our gang culture, because we do have a gang culture here. We have a culture of violence and epidemics that's sweeping our city right now, especially in the Northwest. So we have to be knowledgeable. The mayor has to be very knowledgeable of all the issues. I'm aware that there's a lot of experience at this table, and I mean, from 20 years in nonprofits to 35 years in owning a business, but I don't see anywhere that these candidates experience homelessness, experience unemployment, experience being in a drug-infested household. Those are the things I've come from, and those are the experiences that I have learned from that would allow me to best represent the entire city. Thank you.
I love the question. It's one that I bring up regularly. I think it's one of the biggest defining features of the six of us is in that we have such distinctly different opinions on this question. It is a very different job than the city council, and it's certainly a different job than the one it was when it was a rotating position on the council. I believe, and the charter states, that the mayor has two primary functions: to set the priorities for the community and to set the agenda for the council. Now, both of those, of course, are done in direct partnership with all entities, but I think what the mayor really has the potential to do for us is promote the best of what we do as a community and identify our greatest opportunities and challenges to make it even better. And then go out and use the bully pulpit, as Bill Bogart says, or the platform, or even the megaphone to point at those things that we're doing well, point at the things that we're not doing well, and bring resources to those efforts so that we can address them in new, innovative ways, different than what we've seen at any point in the past. Again, the Latino Coalition is a perfect model for what the mayor can do as a matchmaker, pulling people together who are doing great work, who have the potential to align their resources in a way that collectively they can accomplish more together than they can if they try to do things individually. It's the only way we're going to address challenges in the future. As you can see in the past, we haven't taken that approach as effectively as we can, and I know going forward, that's what's going to propel us into being a model in every way, shape, and form in addressing our toughest challenges.
So I see the role of mayor as being a champion for the city, not just here locally in Pasadena, but also for the region. We know that we like to say at the city council level, you know, so goes Pasadena, so goes the rest of the region. And so Pasadena is a leader, and as such, the mayor is the leader of the initiatives that are in the best interest of our community. As a city council member, I've always governed by the tenet that, you know, our job is not just to listen to the loudest voices in the room or, you know, the hundreds of people that can fit into the council chamber any one particular evening, but also the voices of the people that aren't there for whatever particular reason. And that's something that I plan to continue to do as mayor. I believe that the mayor is also charged with representing all of Pasadena, not just our electorate, because there's many people in Pasadena that are not registered voters, yet we still have to make sure that their needs and their concerns are addressed as well. And so that's the role that I see as mayor, as one that represents every single voice and resident in Pasadena.
Thank you. I think the role of mayor is a threefold approach. I think more than anything, the mayor really has to know the communities within Pasadena. Without the mayor knowing the communities here in Pasadena, how is he or she going to really be effective to carry out and to share the experience of the residents? I know as someone who grew up in Northwest, who live on the east side, who has a business down on the south portion of Lake, and who's lived in other areas of Pasadena, how important it is to know the different communities and neighborhoods. I think a mayor really needs to be in tune with that to really carry that out. The second thing I think is vital is that the mayor's role should be able to apply a vision for Pasadena in which he or she has gained from understanding the constituents, because it's the voice of the constituents that we should be concerned with. That's why I have been walking for the last 90 days door to door every day, making sure that I hear the voice of the voters, of the residents, of the constituents, to make sure that when I get to the city hall, I'm carrying that out. And last but not least, to make sure that the mayor is truly an ambassador for the city. He or she should do as Mayor Bogart shared with all of us at his state of the city address, which is to be really passionate about this city, to really love this city. And I know as a child, I have always.
We'll need to cut you off there.
Oh,
Time is up.
thank you. All right.
I told you she's going to be strict about this.
I like that.
The mayor indeed has to be the leader of the community. It's not a position of a figurehead, and it's easy to talk about different things that one might do. But one thing I would ask you to do, hopefully you've been able to get one of these, look at the different things that over the course of my time in Pasadena and continuing now, I have been involved with. It's not just a couple of things. It's a very extensive background of involvement in Pasadena, not someplace else, but here. And I think that's critically important. Yes, the position of mayor is different from that of being a city council member, but it's not any different, not that different than it was before, in the sense that you must still represent the entire community. You have to get out there, work with the city manager, work with the city council, work with our citizens to decide what we want to do, how we're going to do it, and then go and do it. I think I have the style and the temperament and the record of accomplishment, achievement, to demonstrate that that's exactly what I can and will do. So talk is easy, but sometimes you have to look and see what has a person actually done in this city, in this community, and take that as the background of the individual and judge the person on that background, not on what some else or what that person might have to say. So I'll be happy to talk with you individually or collectively about things I've done in the community, for the community, and with the citizens, and demonstrate how I can lead and have led, and will do so again, this great community. So thank you.
When the charter was revised in 1999, there were two specific roles that were assigned to the new citywide mayor position. One is to represent all the voters instead of just one of the 7 districts. And the other was to establish budget priorities before the city manager and the staff even began that process at the beginning of the year. That's what's supposed to happen at the State of the City address. So those are the two specific things that the mayor is assigned to do. And I feel well positioned to deal with both of those. There are some other issues, though, too, things that people don't necessarily focus on or even know about. The mayor has a disproportionate number of appointees. All of the city council members have an opportunity to appoint representatives to the various boards and commissions, but the mayor has extra appointees. The mayor also has the opportunity to set the agenda for the various meetings, to negotiate with the city manager when there's a tough issue and an outside developer comes to town, to play a ceremonial role, and most importantly, to show leadership and advocacy for the entire community. And that's the role that I am most anxious to try to participate in if I'm successful in being elected.
We'll move on to question number 3, and to kind of, move the microphone around a little bit. Why don't we start with Ms. Robinson on this one. Question number 3 is, please name at least 2 commissions that you feel are working effectively, and share why you think they are effective, and which commissions are working most effectively specifically for Spanish-speaking residents in Pasadena. These aren't going to be softballs.
So I'm going to say the Northwest Commission, because of course that's where our highest concentration of Latino residents are in the city. But also I believe the Commission on the Status of Women is also very influential and important to the Latino community as well. We know that we have a lot of mothers here in Pasadena, we have a lot of children, and a number of those are affected by the decisions both on the Northwest Commission and the Commission on the Status of Women. At one point in time, there was a discussion at the city council level about trying to conserve our resources and perhaps merge some of the commissions, and I was adamant that the Commission of Status of Women was not one that should even be considered. And in fact, because we know Pasadena is a city that's very committed to public input, I find it highly doubtful that we will ever likely eliminate any of the commissions to date, but we will very likely be adding commissions. And so If I only had to pick two, there are of course many more, but I would pick Commission on Status of Women in the Northwest.
I think the two most important, or two very important, in particular to the Latino community, would be the work in the Parks Commission and then public safety, obviously. You know, given the importance of public spaces and the significant connection to community in public space that happens in the Latino community, I think it's important for us to continue to provide the best opportunities in the community for all of our residents. And obviously on the public safety side, we don't have to look far these days to see the significant impact going on in our community with the instability around crime and violence. I think one of the challenges for us as a community is that the commissions are not always fully representative of us as a community or as a city. I think that they can be a little bit insular at times. One of the opportunities for me as the mayor, I think, is to bring a fresh set of perspectives and engage a younger community in the works of our city, and hopefully bring people who haven't been involved in commissions for a very long time into that. I will share my own experience. You know, a few years ago when they were asking for applications for a commission or a subcommittee to look at renewing our general plan, I, being a professor of public policy and teaching urban planning, thought, oh, I would love to do that, and filled out a very lengthy questionnaire and submitted to the city, and never even received something saying thank you for applying. And I think a lot of young people have that experience once and never try it again. And that's a challenge for us, because we know there are a lot of great voices across all communities who are not currently being engaged enough in our commissions, and that's what we need to work on, and we need a mayor who's going to do that well.
Well, I guess from experience in working with the community and working with Parks and Recreation, I believe the Park and Recreation Commission as well as the Human Services Commission do a lot for the Latino community as in regards to being engaged, with, especially with Villa Park and programs that are there to kind of really engage the Latino community with boxing and with gym, and they have like it's like a state-of-the-art facilities, and I think that it's a model for what we all can do just as a city for our Latino communities, because it's just a center of the culture in Pasadena, and I believe that that's why that those commissions are very valuable. I do agree with Mr. Morgan that sometimes they're not represented enough, like particularly the Senior Commission. I believe there's too many vacancies on some of these commissions, particularly the Senior Commission, to where they're not as effective as they can be. So I would urge everyone to try to at least find some more information on these commissions and join some, and just put your interest in there, because like I said, they are run by the people, and if there's no representation there, then those issues go, I guess, unnoticed sometimes. So please just be more involved. Please look up these commissions and please join. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and pass it down to Mr. Tornick, if you could.
Thank you. The 20-plus commissions are sort of near and dear to my heart. I served on 2 of them, and I'm a big supporter of the commissions and have actively sought volunteers to serve on all the commissions, and I vet them very thoroughly. I interview each commissioner and make sure they're well suited. In terms of the commissions that and I've actually been attending commission meetings. I rotate through the commission schedule and go to the Library Commission and the Senior Commission and the related commissions, because I'm interested to hear what they're doing. 2 that I think are really most active right now and most effective are the Design Commission, which is responsible for reviewing all the big projects, new projects. You may or may not think that everything new looks good, but I'll tell you, if the Design Commission hadn't been involved, you'd really be upset with what it looks like. And the Urban Forestry Commission, which is one that probably not a lot of people in this room even know about. Those are 2 of the most effective commissions that are operating today. Forestry meets up at the city yard. I urge you to attend one of their meetings some evening. In terms of the Latino community, I think the Human Relations Commission, which makes a real effort in terms of bridging gaps on a personal level, and especially with the children, and the Planning Commission, because I think the Planning Commission, in terms of its decision-making, really has some of the most far-reaching impacts in terms of what will happen for all the citizens.
Well, based on what certainly has been discussed many times in the many forums we've had, it sounds like the Northwest Pasadena is certainly doing a very good job, as is the Parks and Recreation Commission. The Parks and Recreation Commission is near and dear to my heart because that's the first one I served on when I got involved, or more involved, I should say, with the city of Pasadena. And from that, ended up doing a variety of things from that point on, including authoring a charter amendment that preserves our parks. So I had the opportunity to do exactly that. Serving on a committee, or a commission rather, is critically important. And I think one thing we need to do a better job of is diversifying the membership. And one thing I would look at and work with my council colleagues is to do exactly that, because as has been said, both council members and the mayor have the opportunity to nominate members for the different commissions and committees that we have. And so I would focus on that. It is critically important that we reach out and have representation from our entire community. And one of the things I would do is meet regularly with different parts of our community, come here or go to the Northwest Commission or Jackie Robinson Center, wherever it might be, and meet and listen. I think listening is critically important. It's nice to be able to attend, but you have to listen and then take into account and consider what you've heard. And that's the way I do things, and that's exactly the way I would continue doing it.
Thank you. I love this question, and the reason why is because I live in District 4 over on the east side of town, and when I was appointed by Gene Masuda to be a commissioner, I chose to go into the most needed area that needed the services of a true voice from the city. I was torn between the Planning Commission and Northwest Commission. The Planning Commission is a good commission because it allows us to evaluate our future, especially what areas are going to be viewed to be developed, torn away, jobs created. However, you're talking about a longer range process. The reason I chose the Northwest Commission is because I can have an immediate impact on serving an area that needs servicing. And I can assure anyone here today that any Northwest Commissioner has had on the ground or boots on the ground experience with problem solving, crime, budgets, capital improvements, everything that will be presented to City Council for their approval. And for as far as Hispanic community goes, that was the main area for it, covering from Lake Avenue over to JPL's down to the 210 freeway. That's the area that the Northwest Commission is responsible for. Thank you.
We're going to start with you, if you don't mind, Mr. Shea, for the next question, question number 4, and then you can pass the microphone left. Many of the small businesses in Pasadena are owned or operated by those with limited English. What services and training are available to these entrepreneurs in languages other than English?
Well, I think that's a great question because hopefully everyone here will be able to get my brochure so that they can see that my initiatives are about small business stabilization. Part of that model will be to have translators and counselors available to help you with your translations, with your funding, and to develop partnerships with various sources that's in line with your business. In my 35 years of business, that is what I've been doing, is to make sure people learn how to sustain their businesses, especially through 3 recessions. Without knowing some fundamental focus for business establishment, when we go through these cycles, you are likely not to exist. Not only would the language barrier be a challenge, but the fundamental needs of business principles are required. And if we're going to sustain businesses here in Pasadena, that is what's going to be needed. As far as the language assistance, through my firm, we have Spanish-speaking interpreters that will help you to fashion your language, your business plans, and how to set it up so that you can move it forward. So I think that in my experience here, loving Pasadena, that I've incorporated all the areas to expand on every community to get the best out of Pasadena.
One of the major issues I think we face as a community is the both keeping the business that we have here now and attracting more businesses. That's a real concern because we need to be able to have people have employment, have job opportunities, et cetera. And need to have the educational background, the qualifications to be able to be competent to apply for and fulfill the job opportunities that exist here. One thing I would like to do and work on doing certainly, is to improve, if not change dramatically, the culture of Pasadena City Hall. Now, I'm not criticizing the people who work there. Many of them, most of them, are very, very good, excellent workers, et cetera. But I think in terms of the relationship to the business community, particularly those who may have language barriers or troubles communicating, we can do a better job of addressing those situations and making it more attractive to help people go through the process of applying for a business opportunity here, opening a business or whatever it may be, and then to be able to work their way through all of that. We're losing the mom and pops in this community, and I think that's very unfortunate. We've got a lot of vacancies on East Colorado Boulevard, Northwest Pasadena, and South Lake Avenue. We need to do a better job of fulfilling those vacancies and putting in there good stores, good businesses that'll bring job opportunities, income opportunities, excuse me, for our citizens. So that's the approach I would take to it.
I'm sorry, John. Was the question what the city is doing now?
Yeah, what services and training are available to those entrepreneurs?
Okay. So the city has spent a lot of effort trying to make sure that the employment in City Hall is reflective of the population diversity of the community. And I think that we've had, and we get annual reports in that regard in terms of what the census of City Hall employment is, what it looks like as it compares to the community, both in terms of ethnicity and gender. And that report is done in some detail, and we've been making very significant strides in that regard. And I think to the extent that the City Hall census is reflective of the community census is absolutely critical in terms of our overall service delivery to our citizens. I think it does better in some departments than others and at some levels than others, but I think we are making progress. The business development people in the economic development department, there is at least one fully skilled bilingual person to provide assistance to small businesses and can do that in Spanish. But I think the larger issue is to make sure that every level of city employment, up to and including department heads, is reflective of the overall population of the city. And that will assure that the proper kinds of services are delivered in an appropriate way.
Let's bring it all the way down to Mr. Harden.
Well, I believe it's the city's role to help local small businesses succeed. And one of those things, one of the things that the city can do is better educate business owners in regards to what resources are out there. Personally, I believe that Innovate Pasadena is a great resource to send small businesses to, because they kind of address a lot of entrepreneurial issues and challenges, and language barriers are definitely a challenge, so I believe that that would be an issue that they would love to take on. Also, I believe in creating these workshops. I believe the city should create workshops that help our local businesses succeed. We have a strong brand power, and I mentioned that plenty of times. We have to tap into Pasadena's strong brand power. There's a lot of people willing to spend money and invest money into Pasadena products, and we do have to teach our businesses to tap into these global markets, whether it be through internet, whether it be through direct mailing, or just being creative in making these products available. But basically, we have to teach our businesses to succeed. We do charge a lot in fees, and we do have a lot of red tape that our businesses have to go through to be legitimate in Pasadena. So let's take a proactive approach in helping them succeed. Thank you.
Well, I think it's safe to say that the communication between City Hall and many of our small businesses is very poor regardless of what language you speak. Most small businesses feel as though they're functioning in a system that's a black box with very limited transparency. There's very little on the front end that allows them to get a sense of what they need to address in order to start their business and maintain their business. This is particularly true, obviously, for those who are speaking English as a second language or maybe very limited English. I know my own experience living, over a year abroad, speaking Spanish as a second language. It's not easy navigating some of the complexities of things like a business development. So the city needs to really shift our focus to being more customer service oriented. We need to stop treating businesses as though they are lucky to be doing business in our community. Other communities are out hustling us on this. We keep using Glendale and Monrovia and saying we're losing business to them because they're cheaper. That's not it. They're actually outworking us. Their staff is partnering people on their staff with business people trying to start businesses in order to make it easier to come to market. And I think that that's the direction we need to go. On the development side and working in particular with the Latino community, I think, again, we have nonprofits doing good work around this, both in terms of business development and financial literacy. We know it's not just about speaking Spanish, right? There's a cultural component to this as well, and I think if we want thriving businesses to be bringing the best of their cultures to market, then we need people working with them who understand how to do that without just trying to whitewash them and make them look like every other business.
So I believe that there's no shortage of opportunities that Latino businessmen and women can have with the city. I think the problem is both relationship building and the communication in terms of bilingual information being available. One of the frustrations that I've had, especially serving District 1, is that I do have a large Latino population, and because it's not automatic that I'm able to have Spanish translators at public meetings, or allowing my mail to go out both in English and Spanish, it's an additional burden on the individual council offices that do have that, in order to be most effective, do have to send that information out. And so I think one of the most remediable solutions that can come out is that it be automatic that council members have the ability to send out bilingual information to their constituents. One of the things that I've also been successful at is working with all of the council members, and I've had an opportunity to partner with Councilmember Victor Gordo on several projects, both with his district and my district, to provide things like emergency preparedness training to youth. Also partnering with him to educate our residents on the new state driver's license requirements for undocumented drivers, as well as supporting the police department in their start of the Citizens Police Academy being available in Spanish. And so I think we have to keep building on those initiatives as we move forward.
All right, everybody doing okay? We're about halfway through with the questions.
Okay.
We're still going on. Question number 5, we're going to start with Mr. Thompson on this one. The percentage of those who work in civil service jobs and live in Pasadena seems to be at a significant low. Do you see this as being a problem for the residents of Pasadena? If not, why not? And if so, what might be done to alleviate the problem? We'll repeat it again one more time. The percentage of those who work in civil service jobs and live in Pasadena seems to be at a significant low. Do you see this as being a problem for the residents of Pasadena? If not, why not? And if so, what might be done to alleviate the problem?
I guess I'm not sure why a low percentage of people working in civil service jobs would be a major deterrent or negative factor. It seems to me that the more important thing is, do we have people who are able to get jobs, period, regardless of what the location might be or what the nature of the job might be? Do they have the educational background to qualify to go out and get a job after they finish high school? And we need to make sure, first of all, that they actually finish high school, and we're doing things at Pasadena City College, working with PUSD, the school district here, public school district, to make sure that that is easier for the students to achieve. But I guess, again, as I said, I think we need to provide job opportunities. We need to be able to attract businesses to come here, have people qualified to take those jobs, work their way up the ladder, and become more efficient at it, and become better qualified to carry on and support themselves and their families as they go forth. So I guess I would not be concerned about the low percentage in civil service jobs. I am concerned about the overall absence of real job opportunities and promotion opportunities for people working and living in this community. And I would work very hard to improve that, as I've said many times in the different forums we've had.
This question takes me by surprise a little bit, because I have to tell you, I've never heard that statistic, and so I'll accept it at face value, but I'm not aware of it. I do think, though, that frankly, if it is true, and I don't know how civil service is defined, whether it's local or regional or federal, I think that government jobs is not a growth industry. It's not the place where we should be striving to place people who need employment and career tracks. Pasadena needs to define where it has a competitive advantage. And my feeling in terms of employment is that the 4 areas where Pasadena really can excel is health, education, innovation or high tech, and hospitality. That is the range, those are the niche jobs that I think we can be competitive in for Latinos and for everyone else. It offers the broad spectrum of career ladder and wage opportunity and requirements in terms of education and experience. So I think our job, our focus, should be not so much worrying about percentage of civil service jobs, but rather focusing on where we can excel in placing people in those growth opportunity areas.
Mr. Shea?
Well, in answering this two-pronged question, I believe that the challenge here is affordable housing. If they have a low-paying job as civil servants here in Pasadena, and they're unable to live here, well, because the housing is too expensive. And I know this for a fact because I was one of the leading realtors for first-time buyer programs when we had the program in existence about 10 years ago. And what we saw in that trend was that if you didn't get in at that time, you would lose an opportunity. Even when the market went down, you didn't have the programs in place to get into the market before it went back up. So I think that's a key component there is affordable housing. The second thing is really a pathway for civil servants to move up in the ranks and bring other Latino and other minorities into the workforce at City Hall. That goes to the training element that we have available for our youth. As you will notice when you receive my flyer, that is the focus of the program that I'm looking at, is to make sure that there is a entrepreneurial and vocational training for Pasadena youth to get on track to move up in areas that would otherwise not be available to them for job creations, and also to stabilize, again, small businesses here in Pasadena, offer other forms of employment opportunities. Thank you.
I agree that civil service and employment is a challenge in Pasadena, but I think that we have to remember that civil service is not the only sector, or public sector is not the only employment that's available in Pasadena. And as Mr. Tornick mentioned earlier, if healthcare, education, and hospitality are the growing sectors of employment in Pasadena, then we have to make sure that the employees that are working in those sectors are adequately paid and have a living wage that they're able to sustain their families on. One of the challenges at the city level is that we are facing a lot of retirements right now, and as we look to recruit new employees to the city, we're losing that institutional knowledge, and so I believe the city has to do a better job at making sure that we're able to offer competitive salaries to maintain the institutional knowledge with our long-term employees, but also being able to effectively recruit new employees to the city that have the local-based knowledge of, growing up here, working here, knowing the neighborhoods of Pasadena so that they can be most effective. And I think that especially applies to the employees and the officers and staff of the fire department and the police department.
So I'm looking at a woman in the audience who worked for the city of Pasadena for over 2 decades, and what I think she represents in terms of our civil service historically is a woman who went to work every single day and worked very hard and very passionately because she believed firmly that she was improving all of our community. She wasn't just doing a job, she was actively helping to improve the lives of all of those who lived in Pasadena. And unfortunately, a lot of those folks don't anymore work in City Hall and live in Pasadena, and it is a huge issue. The fact that less than 10% of our police force lives in Pasadena is a big deal. How are you supposed to create a community policing model when we have strangers driving in from outside of Pasadena in order to try to engage with the community? Our city population swells to 200,000 residents, or 200,000 people every single day, because 60,000 people are driving into our community to work jobs from other cities. These are big, tangible challenges for us as a community, and so we do need to hire locally. We do need to be better about bringing people into or have people who work in our community, live in our community. Clearly, workforce housing is the solution to this, and we have good models with that. I spent the day with Heritage Housing Partners recently. They're doing incredible work on the private side in partnership with the city. We need firemen, police officers, teachers, nurses, civil servants living in Pasadena and every day working to improve their community and staying connected to those around them so that they can have a huge impact.
I do see it as a problem as well. I do think that we need more residents to hold these positions. I believe that that's required, just not to reduce traffic, because traffic is an issue when we do have a lot of people from other cities coming into our city every day. It does create a traffic issue. But I also believe it's also an accountability issue. If more people from the community work these civil service jobs, we become more accountable because we kind of see the results of our performance. When you don't live here, you don't see the results of your performance when you work here. You really don't. But when you do, you kind of see how it affects the community. You kind of see your value in it. And that's what I think more of us need to do, is just educate the public on the value of these positions and also lead by example. I ran for mayor just to show my community that we can be more involved in our local government and that it does make a difference in how we live. Thank you.
For the next question, we'll start with you, Mr. Morgan. In addition to increased law enforcement at our city's parks, what would you suggest to reduce the significant and troubling recent spike in violence at those important public recreation areas?
Yeah, so I think crime is clearly something you have to address on two different levels. One is the most immediate, which is, a greater and more strategic presence of police in parks and other public spaces. Someone mentioned just the fact that Margaret mentioned earlier, people being in parks, families being in parks frequently move people away. We know that to be true. I know my work in Boyle Heights has seen a lot of the mothers who go out on the street corners and spend a lot of time out there have pushed a lot of the gang activity away from the streets. So there are some specific things there, but clearly the long-term solution to this question also has to be built around looking at education, right? And in my experience working in Nickerson Gardens and Watts, which I think is relevant to Pasadena because we should be learning from other communities, is that you have to engage kids very early as kindergarten, and maintain a consistent presence with them so that when they get to 4th grade and they start getting recruited for gangs, they have other alternatives. And so that's our long-term solution, is to be actively engaging children and families so they have different choices than moving towards gangs and violence. So I would address it on both sides.
Let's go to Mr. Harden here.
Well, there's a few things we can do. The first thing we can do, I believe, is since some of these parks are attracting this kind of attention, this negative attention, and this type of activity, we need to put some of these resources at that park, the resources that reach the most high-risk, high-gang-impacted individuals. We have wonderful programs regarding mentorship and intervention and that address homelessness and all things like that, but we have to put these resources in the park where these people who need them most are going. Because some of them, like I said, if they keep coming to these areas and they see a solution, the ones that really want to change will. The ones that really want to make a difference in their life will. And those that don't will be deterred from coming to that park. They're not going to want to hang around all this positivity and things happening and all this attention that these parks are having, because what it does, it populates the park with people willing to make a difference. And if there's nobody in the park doing anything positive, it's going to be a hub for something negative. So we do have to take back our parks. We do have to become more involved, and we have to supply the resources at the place they will be most needed. I also encourage everyone to be part of the Vision 2020 initiative, because that actually addresses a lot of the dynamics that create this local violence. I graduated from the Pasadena Intervention Prevention Program, and I've learned a lot, and it's a public course, and it's free, and every community member should take it. You'll learn a lot of what we can do to be part of the solution, because Chief Sanchez said it best. He said we can't enforce our way out of this. We have to deal with the problem directly, and that's by giving them the solutions to make that not even a problem anymore. Thank you.
Robinson.
So I believe we begin to resolve this issue when we look at it as a long-term solution versus just the immediate need. Right now we're in a high level of shootings across the city, but this same thing happened in 2007. The same thing happened in 1993, 94. It's going to happen again, and so it's not a matter of if, it's when. But I believe that if we take a long-term approach, like continuing and increasing the funding on programs that we know work across the city, programs like the MASH program increasing the number of summer roles, employment opportunities that we have for youth. Perhaps it's a question of extending summer roles past the summer so that youth can have year-round employment. Ensuring that our city-based institutional home that the Pasadena City Council selected in 2008 as a result of the ad hoc committee on youth, families, and neighborhoods commissioned the report, going back to that and looking at what we've done and what we haven't done, and making sure that we are adequately funding the programs that we know work. More immediately to our current situation, I agree that we can have extra patrols, but I also believe that we're not going to enforce our way out of the issue. And so on a short-term level, we can increase patrols. We can, perhaps bring back our park safety officers at each of the neighborhood parks. But I do think we have to take the much more long-term approach and make budgeting for youth development and violence prevention across the city a long-term budget item.
Thank you. I believe that the approach that should be developed is make sure we're focusing in on the areas that needs attention. Of course, as a Northwest Commissioner, my focus would be to say Northwest needs a lot of attention. It has been since I've been a part of it over the last 4 years. And one of the things that we've done as Northwest Commissioners, especially when there's high peak incidents, is to make sure, first of all, the neighbors are alert and aware. They're our first stage of communicating and being in tune with what's going on in their neighborhood. Secondly, to broaden the local community policing, which again help to curtail a lot of the activities and get it under control. We have to work as a community when we have these high peak issues. There's no quick fix. And for anyone who knows and live in Northwest and have been a part of that community knows that it has to come from a collective effort by everyone. As to the parks, I think by, again, increasing awareness for neighbors, increasing a broader police, community policing, those things deter the type of activities that we're seeing right now. Also, by having a high alert of a lot of incidents, people are able to communicate and make police aware of certain things that's going on in the community because there's a high alert in that area. Thank you.
One of the challenges we face, and I've talked directly with Chief Sanchez about this, is that we need to find more resources to provide to hire more police officers. I think it's 23 is the number that they're down, and the chief really wants to have that additional police officer provided. The same token, the firefighters are down in their employees as well because of the budget constraints imposed by the city. We've got to find ways and resources to make up that and give them back the resources they need to be able to do the jobs that we need them to do. I mean, one of the main reasons for the existence of local government is to provide for public safety. Police, firefighters, in our case also paramedics, and so we have to do that. I think also we have to be realistic here. We've got a lot of people coming back into our community and society by being released from state prisons earlier than they might have. But regardless of when they are released, they don't have the educational background, they don't have the job opportunities and experience and qualifications to go to work. We need to address that. And so those are some of the things. At PCC, we're trying to do that. We have a career educational opportunity department and for people to be able to reintegrate into new careers, et cetera. Also, one thing I'd like to do is to be able to take a pre-kindergarten program for underprivileged children, raise private funding to be able to put them in preschools, because the records show that the earlier children start to learn, the more likely it is they will keep on doing that and be successful in their careers.
This is a cyclical problem, and one that continues to trouble us. I think that the police department, in terms of its community policing model, is doing a pretty good job. And I think the outreach efforts are well established and pretty effective. It is a little bit troublesome that in some of these incidents, the community has not been willing to come forward, even when there are witnesses, to identify who some of the participants have been. So community policing only works effectively if the community is one of the participants. And so we obviously have some work to do there. And I think some of the things that have been referenced in terms of the the programming activities, the youth programs, the reintegration programs for people who are coming out of prison, all of those are a piece of the puzzle. In terms of resources, while it's true that we can't necessarily enforce our way out of this entirely, in fact, there are vacancies in the police department that need to get filled. We have funded but unfilled slots, and we need to bring the police department up to full strength in terms of resources that are already committed before we talk about providing additional resources. But it's scary, and we've heard from the community that they're frightened, and so we've had a big discussion about this last Monday night, as you may know, at the City Council, and that will continue to be one of our highest priorities.
Question number 7, we'll start with Mr. Shea again. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, many will be able to get health care for the first time ever. However, many will not be able to get insurance plans due to their immigration status. Do you see this as a problem? And if so, what can you and the council do to ensure that all the community has access to affordable health care?
Wow, that's a tough question. And the reason why it's very tough is because, one, you're dealing with an immigration problem, which actually stems from the federal government. If we have problems with individuals who are not documented or registered properly, I believe that we're going to have to work through the process of what the healthcare problem actually presents, because this is actually going to be probably our first full year of seeing how it's going to be rolled out. So I just think that until we're able to see how it's going to play out, that would be my suggestion, and work through it at this point.
Let's bring it to the right.
It is a problem, and I believe that health care is a right for all individuals, not just if you're a documented citizen of the United States. In Pasadena, we're lucky that we have a lot of community-based partners that are working to fill the gap for those that don't have access to the Affordable Care Act. I was privileged to be able to do a public service announcement for the Affordable Care Act, working with our partners at CHAP Care and also Young and Healthy, who are also doing some of this work. I think it's going to be important to continuing to partner with our non-city agencies like the Billmore Clinic to ensure that the other options that are available for families to receive health care are well publicized, well marketed, and available for them to take advantage of. And I'm proud that our public health department, we're one of only a few in the state that we're working to continue to make sure that all of our residents have access to free quality health care, and that in terms of the undocumented population not having access, it's one of those things that we're going to pay for it in the long term. We know that people without health insurance, they're going to use our emergency department. We saw that was an issue at Huntington Hospital, and they're going to use the services regardless, and we have an obligation to serve them. And so what can we do to take prevention and intervention steps to ensure that their families can receive services in the short term?
So as someone who in his first job out of college was being asked to lie on my timesheet so my employer didn't have to provide me health insurance, I got sick and became a type 1 diabetic that year. And so I understand the vulnerability and the desperation, I think, that comes with those who get sick, one, not insured, and they do end up at emergency rooms. You're right, Jackie, and that's the exact wrong way to treat health care. So, I mean, it is a huge issue. Now, I wouldn't propose to suggest that the mayor of Pasadena is going to fix the Affordable Care Act, but CHAP Care is a great example. I spent some time with them this week. They are a great model for the type of answer we should be looking for here in Pasadena. Not only are they providing services like vision and dental and medical services, but they're also doing it in partnership with the city and other nonprofits. They're working with local nonprofits on the outreach side to make sure that everyone involved with various clients who are in vulnerable communities realize that they have these types of services. I've seen this work. Again, the Magnolia Community Initiative worked with St. John's Wellness Clinic, and we had promotoras who went out into the community and talked to people in the community and let them know that there are options other than the emergency room, which are very important. So I think, again, engaging across a number of different vehicles to talk to the community and let them know what they can do. You know, that is the model. We have groups doing that well. The mayor, I think, can do well to even strengthen those types of organizations like CHAP by showing the amazing work they're doing every day.
Well, I too agree it's a problem that that our undocumented citizens or our undocumented residents do not have access to affordable health care. But the thing is, there are some resources out there. I do believe that it does come down to education. We do have to make more information available of these resources. We have to partner with these resources to actually present this information. I do believe that since the city does have its own health department, that we do have some of the freedom to explore other ways to provide this health care. I think that we have to be creative. I think we have to open this up to discussion and kind of see how we can implement that, because Ms. Robinson is right. It does cause a problem for everyone in the long run, and it does cost the city in the long run. So we do have to just use our resources, use our local health department, and kind of see how we can address this issue.
Pass it all the way down to Mr. Tornick, if you could.
This is an important national issue. I do think that the city can be proud of its efforts, although they're not unlimited. Our public health department does provide services to those who are really most in need of health services. Our relationship with CHAP and the other nonprofits that's already been referenced is something we can be proud of. That clinic did not happen without important city investment. There's an additional issue here that we need to address that hasn't been talked about, and that is we need to make certain that our regional hospital, the Huntington, resolves its labor dispute quickly and amicably, because that, in fact, that resource, which unhappily has gotten a C rating from a nonpartisan professional organization in terms of the service it provides, is not going to be able to provide health services either to anyone in the community on an effective basis unless it can reach some sort of accord with its most critical employees, the nurses. So I've been involved in that effort in trying to persuade the Huntington to reach an accord with their nurses. And I think that's all part of this puzzle of how we're going to provide effective service to all the members of our community.
As has been said, the health facility and plan we have in this community is called the emergency room in Huntington Hospital. It's been that way for many years, and unfortunately, while things are improving, and we've got, as has been mentioned, one of the few cities in the state to have a health department, I think we are very fortunate in that respect, and we have been doing a very good effort in trying to reach out to the different entities and make sure that we are able to provide better health coverage. It remains to be seen what's going to happen with the Affordable Care Act and what its implementation and all of that. The different states are all approaching it very differently, and certainly California is not that different in that respect. And so unless and until we get that resolved, I'm not sure we're going to be able to address completely or satisfactorily the problem of those who do not have health insurance. That's really the key to the thing, is trying to work with the different entities, provide that opportunity, because now those who do not have insurance are going to go to the emergency room when they have a problem, and that's perfectly understandable, and we've got to somehow come to address that. Working with the hospital to improve its labor relations is one approach. Certainly as a mayor, I would be prepared to talk to the people over there and find out how I can and how the city could be better involved and more intimately involved in those negotiations, those efforts, because it's in everyone's best interest to bring that to a close as quickly as we possibly can.
The next two questions could technically be answered with one word, but you have a minute and a half if you want to expand. Who would like to start? Ms. Robinson. The question is, do you speak Spanish?
I do not.
Sí. Claro que sí.
Mucho poquito.
See,
I do not speak Spanish.
No.
Next question. Who wants to start on this one? You take it, okay. The question is, if elected, will you commit to serving the full term?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Certainly.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this. We do have one final minute for each of you to kind of wrap things up and speak to the constituents here about your thoughts going into the last month of the campaign.
Want me to go first?
Sure, go ahead.
So I think that this election is a significant one. Obviously, Bill Bogart is leaving us in an amazing position, but we also have so much opportunity to move forward. And so really what this election is about is how we will address our greatest opportunities and challenges in the future and what the role of the mayor is in that. So I'll just leave you with 3 questions to think about. Are you happy and satisfied with the ways our government, our city hall has engaged the Latino community and our community broadly in solving problems in the past? Are you happy with the solutions that are being presented today? And do you feel that you have a voice in our efforts to change our community? You know, if the answer is no to any of these, there's only one way that we're going to see different answers to that question in the future, and that's to bring someone to City Hall who has a different voice, a different lens, a different set of experiences, and can share that with the entire community to create a hopeful future.
Thank you again to the coalition for this opportunity today. I have worked in partnership with many of you in this room to resolve some of our most challenging issues in Pasadena, and I look forward to continuing that as mayor. I'm proud of the coalition that I've built, both as a resident of Pasadena and as a council member, of having a diverse base of individual and organizational supporters and endorsers relevant to my campaign. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Cheerleader Action Fund, as well as the LA County Democratic Party and the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor. Even though this is a nonpartisan race, I believe that our next mayor has to have a relationship with our entire community, from north to south and east to west. And I believe that I've built a reputation for working collaboratively, not just with the council members, but all of the stakeholders across the city. I'm proud to have welcomed the Latino Heritage Parade to District 1, and I look forward to continuing that collaboration as well. And so I invite you to join me and ask for your vote on March 10th. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to first of all thank the Latino Coalition for this opportunity to share with you this evening, and I ask for your vote as mayor. The reason why I am running again is to be the only candidate that has a plan and a vision for Pasadena that is reflective of your community. As I said before, as a Northwest Commissioner, I have been intimately involved with what it will take to serve you, to improve the Northwest community. I think just speaking in that term says a lot for all the issues that goes on in that area. More importantly, I'd like to bring trust back to the City Hall. We've had some challenges with the $6.4 million embezzlement. We didn't have oversight in place to make sure we weren't damaged as residents and constituents. I like to be the gentleman who come in and rescue it as we did with PCC. Right, Bob?
I'm Bill.
Oh, Bill. Right.
That's okay, John.
We'll call you Prince Charles next.
After that exchange, it's kind of hard to say something here, but as I said earlier on, I'm the only candidate who has actually served as mayor, and I believe firmly that that is very, very important. To be the mayor, you have to be a leader, you have to have the style and the temperament to be able to do that job. My record of civic involvement currently and in the past demonstrates I can do exactly that. I was involved in the decisions that were made to cause the refurbishment of Old Pasadena, the One Colorado project, what is now the Langham Hotel, the money obtained to renovate the Colorado Street Bridge, the money obtained privately for what is now the Roseville Aquatic Center, and on and on. So I can and I will lead. I will do exactly that. I agree with Mr. Shea that there are issues at City Hall, such as the embezzlement, that must be cleared up. And if anybody wants to contact the city clerk and find the link to the audio of the 1 hour and 21 minutes from the Municipal Services
we're gonna need
Committee
to-
of the
we're gonna need
city.
to cut you off
I
there.
invite you to do exactly that.
Thank you for all of you for coming out. As I look across the audience, at least half of the people are committed to one candidate or another, as near as I can tell. But for those of you that are still not committed, you're going to be besieged with information over the next couple of weeks. I hope that you'll take the time to review it. And if you have any questions, I would love for you to give me a call at 375-0075 so that I can talk with you directly. I hope that you will conclude that I am well qualified for this job and that I have demonstrated the willingness and ability to listen to people across the whole city, and that I will be an effective representative for all of the people of the city. And so I do ask you for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Harden, you were the one to start us off. We'll let you wrap it up.
Well, I guess I just wanted to say one thing. Over the past month or so, I've been able to learn a lot from the folks up here and a lot about them. And honestly, there's some good politicians up here, but when it comes time to vote, I don't want you to vote for the best politician. I want you to vote for the person who best represents the people of Pasadena, and that's all the people of Pasadena. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this forum. We're going to take a short commercial break. If the candidates for Council District 1 could make your way up and take your seat.